Thursday, July 17th. Let's level up. Have a little bit of a VIX problem still, not confirming the new highs, but I think that's because the VIX has some natural bids down here, particularly with earnings coming up and the Fed decision. Also, some reload for the new quarter. Seasonally, this time of year is when things tend to peak, so I do think that pops probably are going to get a little bit sold into, but drops have been getting bought, so it doesn't necessarily mean the bears have control just yet. Keep an eye on the 1623 level. If the bulls can finally get price back below there in the VIX and hold below there, I think that they could get the blow-off scenario, but that is required in my view. As far as the ES and the NQ go, we are making some new highs in the overnight session, which means we will likely need to make new highs in an RTH session to confirm. Anything above 63.43 I think remains bullish, and I think we can raise stops now to 63.32 quarter, which was the old resistance, which now must act as support. If it doesn't, we'll likely repair today's rich close to 63.26, and then maybe even retest the 63.0675 to 63.13 level, which was also key breakout levels. As far as the Qs go, we're right at the 2 times range here at 23,269.5. The 2.618 is up at 23,476.5, and I think that would require some pretty nice earnings. Generally, though, if we do have a pullback, the 23,189 VWAP, today's rich close, would be repaired. Then after that, we could check back to 23,089.5. That is the new must hold in my view. As far as SPY goes, a couple of sessions ago, we had that pullback after having new highs. I think a lot of that was on the sell-off thanks to the banks. We did have the follow-on the next day on the Trump comments about firing Jerome Powell, but once those were put to bed, we were back up to the upside. Bears had a failure and the bulls jumped in. We are now very close to the channel high again, which we seem to be riding higher. That would be 628.85. Generally, anything over 626.87 is bullish, and the 10 MA at 623.91 is a good new raised stop. On the upside, we're in clear air, but if we do the 2 times range, that would be 658.82. Qs, similar story. Bulls there will need to hold the 10 MA at 555.85. On the upside, the magenta channel high, if we were to do it tomorrow, would be 568.77. 2.618 on that is 598.24. Pullbacks now need to hold the 20 MA at 548.53. Anything more than that, I think, starts getting serious. Generally, I like to be long things over 10 MAs. 20 MAs are buyable on the first test as long as they hold. NVIDIA is still acting well, making new all-time highs. I don't think you can let it get below 170.55 on you, and I still like booking 172.44 plus. If that keeps going, we could make it into the 175s. 175.66 would be channel high. I think if there is a liquidation break, a pullback to the 10 MA would make sense at 164.86. After that, it would be the 20 MA at 158.28. If you want to do some type of a put ratio for a pullback, I'm good with targeting that 150-ish area with maybe an overwrite down closer to 143. If you're going longer dated, maybe something closer to 140 or 133 is particularly if it's closer to the end of the year. We know that this time of year does tend to peak out sometimes in stocks. August, September, October often are weak, so we could see some pullback then. I do think there would be a rally into the end of the year, particularly if the Fed is going to be cutting rates. As far as Netflix go, they did rally it into the close today, which was the exact opposite scenario I had wanted to see. They did spike it in the after hours. It did get up to a little bit above the 1305.48, but then quickly pulled back. Stocks that can't go higher on good numbers often go lower. I'd be very careful if the bulls couldn't hold today's low of day at 1244.80. We're very close to there in the overnight session. I think if that were to break, we could see a move down to the yellow channel high at 1195.73. If you want to do a 1x2 put ratio or even a 1x1x1 targeting the 1064.5 old all-time high breakout, I think that could work. I think that there's a lot of support between there and 999. Let's say you're bullish and you want to do some type of a put ratio, meaning you want to capitalize on some pullback, but then have the ability to buy it lower. That makes some sense to me. Let's give this a couple of days to settle in and see how it takes. JP Morgan had a couple of days of a little bit of weakness and then was back to the upside. I generally think that Netflix was fine, the earnings were fine, the guidance was fine, it just was a little overbought into the numbers. And I've told you before, we were looking for the 1305.48. We got it again. It has not been able to sustain. Bulls will need to sustain that to extend. Meta is still pulling back after we saw the look above and fail of those 740.91. A little bit of a bottoming tail hammer today. I would be interested in buying the dip closer to the 50 MA at 678.85 to the 78.6 of the range at 685.03. Let's see if we could get down there. I think it's a buy at least the first test, probably for a bounce to the 20 MA, which is currently 714.97. I think on the upside, that and the 10 MA at 717.12 are likely resistance now if there's a premature bounce. Google's still looking good. Seeing some chop with these candles. Anything over 181.11 I think is bullish. My ultimate upside target is 192.81. I do think it could test into the 200s, but it has run and has still been holding well into earnings. If it continues rallying into earnings, I'll probably be out of my trade. I did book a lot of the call spreads. I'm still short some of the put spreads, the 160, 140, and that's in December expiration. Tesla, a lot of chop here. I told you I thought this 319.03 to 325.10 area would be some resistance. If it clears, we could see 331.05. I'd be careful below the 20 MA, 316.97. I think that could be a short to at least the 10 MA at 309.51. Microsoft still acting really well, acting like it wants to make some even more new all-time highs. 521.13 is the yellow channel high. I think if you want to do some type of a put ratio playing for a retest of the 468.35 breakout, that makes some sense to me. I don't love that this is running into earnings. The money flow is bleeding out of it, so I think they might be on a little bit of borrowed time. It doesn't mean it has to collapse right away, but 730 is the earnings, and the higher we are into that, I do think it risks pop and flop or just outright flop failure. Crypto bills passed, Bitcoin is rallying, but a little muted. You'd think it would be a little stronger. Candle body low here is 119,315, so that would be the stop. I do think that there could be some sell the news on this. If it does keep going though, like a little bit longer dated in the next few days, 130,673 is likely going to be the upside channel. I'll continue to update that as the situation develops. Generally, anything over 120,695 does negate that secure high setup. And I told you that just looked to me like there was some consolidation here. So far, that's been the case. Keep an eye on interest rates. They have been very choppy. I'd like to see a secure low setup here. Anything over 85.66, I think, is a race to the 20 MA at 86.69. Anything that sustains below 84.89, I think, could continue to bleed out, though, so be a little bit careful. Dollar stalled at the 50 MA, so that's the must clear, currently 98.774. On the downside, the 20 MA has been support, currently 97.649, so we seem to be caught between those ranges. Bulls need to clear the 50 MA, bears need to break the 20 MA. Generally speaking, markets have run a lot. This is a seasonally tough time of year. I think it makes sense to book some profits into pops, particularly earning pops. Dips so far have been bought, so it doesn't mean we're outright bearish, but we are remaining cautious. Volatility is generally still very low, so pure directional play here, meaning buying puts or put spreads or buying calls or call spreads. The ratio plays are kind of dicey. If you want to do them much smaller size and make sure your strikes are at key support levels. Like and follow for more.